Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Maria Gonçalves podcast. I'm your host, Maria Gonçalves, and today we have two special guests joining us. So we have Dayna Louise and Lorraine. So welcome, ladies.
Thanks, Maria. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Yes, hello, ladies. Lovely to spend some lovely time with you this morning.
Oh my goodness. I'm super excited you guys are here because today's topic, we are going to talk about the power of prayer and healing. So before we even start that, I'm going to ask the ladies to do just a mini little introduction. So, Dayna, would you like to reintroduce yourself to our listeners?
For those who haven't met me before, my name is Dayna Louise, and I'm a spiritual medium here in central New South Wales in Australia. And I offer one-to-one readings, group readings, demonstrations, and healings.
Beautiful. And Lorraine.
And yes, as you see, my name is Lorraine Coffee. I'm from Ireland, originally Dublin, and I am a spirit artist and medium. And I've worked on spirit art for the last 30 years with a lot of angelic inspired paintings. So that created the Angel Sanctuary. So yes, that's me. Hello, everybody.
So, hi. And today we're actually going to start off with one of Lorraine's angel cards. So, I have her deck, and this morning Dayna was shuffling and she got inspired to pull a card, and Lorraine is going to read the card for us.
Oh, well, of course, that would be my pleasure. So Dayna pulled the angel I am, and the inspired prayer is, if you do not know which way to go, it is because I have not shown you. Your greatest challenge at this point is to be still and allow yourself to travel inwards where I am at the heart of your very being. You must know when both our hearts meet, a great light will shine from the heavens upon your rightful path. Confusion will turn to clarity. Uncertainty will turn to knowing, for I will have shown you the way.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
You're
So,
welcome.
with prayer and healing, I don't know, I find being a medium over the years, I do find there is that struggle I had anyways with growing up Catholic and then getting into mediumship, getting into spirituality, and then combining the prayer. I don't know, did you ladies ever feel that at one point in your life or never?
It was only other people that had an issue with that. I never had a problem. I've still kept my Catholic faith, and the experiences I had in regards to having a sick child and having illness myself further cemented that need with the communion between myself and God. So prayer's been very much a part of my life, and in times of need and in illness or even grief. So I've never let that prayer go. And in fact, if you go back to the practice of mediumship, before we start circle, we always open with the prayer. It's just that people like to give it different names. It's the labels sometimes that make people feel uncomfortable with what they call God. So we have different ways of presenting that oneness so that people find that it's not being overshadowed with the stereotype or the influence, perhaps that they were born into or perhaps had a bad experience with. So when we come back to that oneness and that source of all, it seems to pull away all the different religions. And that's the beautiful thing about spirituality. It's available to all, and it is about that oneness and that collectiveness of all individual minds and hearts joining together in unison because we all return home.
Oh, that is beautiful. How about you, Lorraine?
Well, I, like you, Maria, I was born and brought up a Catholic coming from Ireland. And I suppose from the time I was a small child, been in the church with the priest banging on the pedestal, I always questioned or wondered, about my own feelings within myself when I would go to pray. I always felt it was a very beautiful experience, a very holy experience. So I would always struggle with what was offered to us within the church. But I have to say it's been a very quiet practice for me, very internal, where, like Dayna, I would have had to go to that very deep place within me to survive, I suppose, certain experiences of complete and utter despair. And so I have always kept that quietly within me. And I think after having been so ill and the experiences I've had in terms of, I suppose, my mediumship development as well after my illness, or allowing that to develop more, I've become less cautious, I suppose, about, for fear of, being judged or whatever. It's a very personal experience for me, and everything I do in terms of what I'm inspired to do is my personal search for God. And I feel it's a very beautiful and holy place that exists within each of us. Once we allow ourselves to enter that place, it's very, very beautiful. And I think more and more of us need to go there and to actually bring that out into this world, especially today.
Oh, I agree. Yes, Dayna?
Oh, Lorraine, I was going to ask for the listeners that haven't heard your journey through illness. The one key word that you spoke of was your visit with despair. And I think only someone who's really been in the hallows or that really chronic state of illness understands that level of despair. Could you just talk a little bit about that and perhaps how you were able to maintain your connection to that power beyond yourself in those states of despair?
Yes, a very, very traumatic time for me over a 10-year period. But in 2015, I became critically ill with a very mysterious illness, where I was airlifted to hospital. I had my family called in to say goodbye to me. And it was really from that moment that my life changed dramatically. Although nothing could be found, I was left in a really, I suppose, I don't want to say vegetative state, but with what was going on in my body, which was subsequently realized to be Lyme's disease some 5 years later. I was diagnosed with it, but my whole body shut down. So I'd gone from a very active, young woman with a business and my children, just loving life, to being cared for full time by my husband, bedridden. I lost all power of my voice. I had seizures all the time, developed heart. All my organs were affected. So I was left in this place of absolutely, you're there in body, but in your mind is still functioning normally, So inwardly, I had this absolute terror. It was this awful, how would I say, despair is the word, with the savage attack that was occurring upon my body and my nervous system. And I suppose at a point I had lost all faith, to be quite honest with you, because inwardly, even though I couldn't really communicate, I was going, why have I been forsaken? That was the absolute feeling. I suppose you hear about that story in the Bible where Jesus called, why have you forsaken me? And I think each of us at some level experiences that level of challenge to our very being in this world. I don't think any of us escape from it. But yes, I was totally bedridden. My faith inwardly very challenged. And then it was a number of weeks later, my husband, he's just such a beautiful person, and he stayed with me every step of the way. And he was lying beside me. Everyone had to be very careful when they come into the room because my nervous system is so, how would I say, heightened. Even if somebody spoke, I would have pain. If somebody moved my covers, I would have pain. So that's how desperate my situation was. But it was this really, really hot day. We were living in the south of France at the time. And I was lying in the bed. My husband was beside me. And God love him, he was just crying and crying and crying. And I was feeling his absolute sorrow and his despair at the same time as my own. But as I say, it was a really, really hot day in May. And to the back of my bedroom was our kitchen at the time. And it had two big doors on either side into a very large courtyard with other houses around it. And I was in such despair, listening and feeling my husband's despair. I started to pray. Now, remember, I've been bedridden for about 6 weeks. I can't even sit up because I would collapse each time. And I started to pray. And I started to call the Holy Spirit. And I kept calling it. And my husband was just listening to me. Actually, he's probably the one that should be telling this story as well from his perspective. But I started to call the Holy Spirit. And I kept calling. I'd say, I'm call the Holy Spirit. I call the Holy Spirit to help me. And all of a sudden, I got up out of the bed. Now, it was a very still day. And I started to walk out into the living room, which I hadn't been in for the 6 weeks because I was bedridden. All of a sudden, there was this wind started to, just started to build up in the house. Both doors on either side of the room started to bang violently. And my husband just got up and followed me because, one, he was afraid I was going to fall. But I kept calling. I said, I call upon the Holy Spirit. I call upon the Holy Spirit to help me. And out of nowhere, as I was standing in the kitchen, this most incredible sense came from above me. And it was like it entered through my head and moved down through me and sat right into my core. And this is the only way I can describe it because I was in so much pain. I could feel everything. But as this entered into me, I started to feel this enormous peace. And at the same time, I became aware of a very elderly man. And my husband recounts the story that I started to speak as this old gentleman. And he started to bless my husband, but also me. And at the same time, and for the next few days, I carried this enormous sense of peace within my body. I hadn't got as much pain. I still was in bed, if you like, but it had completely renewed my sense of faith that there was something there, that when we call it, especially from the depths and despair, with every fiber of our being, that somehow spirit can make their way and enter into this place of despair. And it really was from that moment on, although it was years later, it was very slowly, bit by bit, I started to move forward. I was no longer in that place between, I suppose, leaving this world. But I just had this little bit of hope after this incredible experience that there was somebody there with me. I wasn't on my own. and that I wouldn't move forward. So that at its most intense and most powerful, after calling out in prayer, was my experience, you know? Yeah. Yeah. It was
I
a
have,
very, very holy experience, very humbling. And it's the first time I've really actually shared it with anyone, bar my husband having both of us experienced it.
Mine was at around about the same time, and that's how we sort of, when we met Lorraine online and we shared our stories, around about the same time we had a very similar illness. Mine wasn't called Lyme disease, but it had very similar effects on my body. So I went on that sort of 2 year journey back to health. And there was lots of things that happened because I literally didn't think I was going to make it. Doctors weren't diagnosing me constant kidney infections, finding it difficult to walk, or muscle weakness, losing my words. At one time, my sight went and it was only for 30 seconds, but that's a really frightening thing when that happens because the nervous system was being attacked at the time. But I had lots of out of body experiences, I guess you could say, because my body was so ill that I would literally lift off the body. And also, I had an increase of mediumship experiences during that time as well. I guess when we're that ill, we're so close between like a shell of a body, I guess, and our spirit is moving already. It's very fragile, that hold on the human body, isn't it, when it's so ill? So I had experiences, profound experiences that really, on the recovery side of things, took me further into that mediumship journey. But I do remember being at a point of absolute despair, and I had because I wasn't getting the care or the help at that time, and I only had a toddler, and I had purchased next seasons of clothing online, and I was buying Christmas presents because I didn't think I was going to make it, and that's just no one could tell by looking at me. I lost a lot of weight. I got compliments. Oh, wow, how did you lose the weight? And I guess that happens, doesn't it, when people don't realize what's happening underneath. Um, but the inability for that to be diagnosed led to doubt by some people because of the duration of the illness. When you look fine on the outside, are you attention seeking? So that in itself can create states of despair when those closest to you don't believe how ill you really are, even though blood tests are indicating your white blood cell count is doing something awful crazy to dictate your body's fighting something very big. Um, but that despair, I think, in hindsight, is a gift. It's like opening a doorway, isn't it? That with time further cements the understandings that we have in the spirit world because we come to know, trust, and believe those experiences to be real. We don't doubt them because they're so powerful in that moment of despair, is what I'm trying to say. Um, so I didn't get the experience you had, but I did. I remember lying on my bed so ill, and at a point of almost feeling like I was ready to give up. That was the feeling where I was battling to stay. That's how it felt. And I remember asking God, well, if I'm going to be here, you have to give me help. No one's helping me. And I remember hearing Dr. Thomas, Sydney. Now, it was just like that voice, that voice within that we talk about. It's stern, but sort of, firm but loving. And I went and researched and found a digestive specialist in Sydney called Dr. Thomas. And I knew as soon as I saw it and that page came up that that was who I was meant to see. And Professor Thomas Perotti was literally responsible for me being here, his treatment. And he sees people all over the world, cases despaired of, that Western medicine at times, with all these autoimmune system responses, can't quite find the help for. And he was just a healer in himself. When you met him, he had that spiritual essence and presence, that loving energy. So I knew that I'd been assisted, not just from the voice, but when I met him, his mother survived Auschwitz, the concentration camp. And I thought, my goodness, is it any accident she survived? Look at this boy and look at the millions of lives that, well, he's a man rather, but the millions of lives he's changed because he was involved in the peptic ulcers that we get, which kill millions of people, the treatment for that. So isolating that bacteria and the treatment for that. So we have those experiences sometimes that are unexplained in those moments of despair. Marie, and you had I know Laurie and I are talking about ours, but you had an experience too because you had an injury and that brought you into your spiritual experience and your mediumship rather later in life, didn't it, Maria? Can you
Oh,
just talk to the listeners about that?
after I hurt my back, I went through a lot of why me, severe depression, because you go from being like I was a mom with two young kids, super active, to all of a sudden I can't even brush my hair without going into excruciating pain. Because anything that involved moving my arms or walking or getting dressed for the first few years was the pain was absolutely horrific. And I had such severe reactions to all the medications. I remember I took one pill, my eyes were wide open, my whole body was paralyzed for 24 hours. It was the most horrifying experience because I couldn't move any of the muscles in my body. And I remember going back to my doctor the next day. He's like, you take this. Give me something else that is not going to make me feel paralyzed. I felt no pain, but I couldn't move. And it was like the scariest thing I've ever experienced. But I know within my own family, there's a lot of belief, very strong belief that we grew up with the power of prayer. So I was always praying all the time, praying, meditating. And I've never shared this story. This is a cool story. And I remember fast forward a few years, still, with the back injury, but now I had discovered healing and Reiki, and I had a room and I set it up where I would pray in the room every day. I would pray. I'd be there for an hour and I meditate. I could be there like 2, 3 hours sitting in prayer. And then one day I had a vision. It was so powerful. And I remember seeing because what after I hurt my back, I could see spirit like I see you. So very objective clairvoyance, very 3D. And all of a sudden the room filled up and it was like there was four angels, one in each corner of my Reiki room, prayer room, uh, in each of the corners, and they're each holding a staff. And I'm just looking around, and then I feel spirit coming in. And I was like, what are we waiting for? Like what are we waiting for? Because I could feel something grand was coming. It's like, what is coming? And then all of a sudden I saw the Virgin Mary. And it was just, you lose time. You lose time, you lose space, and you're not in pain. There is no pain when you're in that get transported to you're still alive. Obviously, you're still alive, but you get transported to the spirit world, to that other part. And it was wild because I remember sharing that story and I would get the looks like, you okay? What kind of painkillers did your doctor put you on this week? Are you sure you're all right? But I remember I had an aunt and I was named after her. And she, like my whole family, grew up with the power of prayer and praying as a community. And she would talk about seeing the Virgin Mary every night in her room. So within my own family, we have very strong faith within the Virgin Mary. And I think it's too because we're Portugal and you got the Holy Land and you got Fatima and you have the miracle of the sun. You have all of that within my own culture. So that's very strongly embedded within us and the festivals. So the 13th, like here in Canada, when you hear the 13, it's very, ooh, it's spooky. But in Portugal, the 13th of each month is Mary. It is one of the holiest days. May 13th, people will walk and do pilgrimages from all around the world together in Portugal in May. And in October, huge festivals, and people will walk and pray for their loved ones that are sick. So it's like the country gathers as a country to pray. And people will fly in from around the world on October 13th because that's like they have multiple prayer vigils there. but October 13th is one of the largest ones. It's May and October. And it's so incredible to be a part of that, to witness that, because when you are in that space, there is no room for fear. There's no room for fear, and it's bliss. You're just like, you're in total happiness, but it's a happiness that I can't even describe. Like, there are no words for it. And I remember too, like, because of where I grew up and the faith that my grandmother had and the faith that people in the village had, if somebody gets sick, there are prayer vigils that start immediately. Like my dad, when he had his stroke in 2018, he wasn't supposed to live. They all told us, like, you're gonna have to fly him home in a casket. And we're like, I don't think so. So, when we got the grim news and he was struggling so bad, we were in one hospital and they actually transferred him to a hospice. And they said, we're just going to transfer him there. Couple days, he's going to pass away. So the village, they started a prayer vigil every day at the little chapel in the village. Everybody and went and prayed. My mom would pray, I would pray. We were all praying for his healing. He wasn't supposed to live. And then my sister was praying here in Canada. There were prayers being, oh my God, I'm going to get tears. I have my cousins in Brazil doing prayer vigils. There's prayer vigils going off around the world, all from this tiny little village, because we would just connect and tell, because the tiny little village, but we all have cousins and aunts and uncles that moved out of the tiny village. And now they're, in different parts of the world. And you call them and you tell them what's happening. And people just kind of spread the news, because that's the way the community works. Where I'm from is you spread the news and you're like, this one person sick, we need to pray. And my mom would tell me stories of miracles that would happen. People that weren't supposed to make it. Like my dad was a miracle. He has passed away since then, but 8 years ago, I think that's 8, 10 years ago. I'm bad with math. That was 2018. Uh, he ended up walking. The doctor said he would never walk again. He ended up walking. You're never going to talk. He ended up talking. That was like from his first stroke, because of that power, we strongly believe, of the prayer, because the doctors couldn't explain it. Like, he should have passed away. And then even for myself, when I was born, um, apparently I was born with the umbilical cord around my neck, and the doctors told my parents, because they didn't get enough oxygen, they're like, she'll be dead within the next 2 days. Just, start preparing for her funeral. You guys need to accept she's struggling. She is not going to make it. That's me, still here. Um, and then it's almost like my family sends out an SOS to the village where my dad is from, which is where my mom is, sorry, because it's so next door now. It's kind of like the villages grow and they take in the little villages. Now it's one big village. But all the prayers go out, village vigils were said for my healing, for my survival. And then what they do, where we're from, and you will see this if you go to Portugal, people will walk. They will do the walk from wherever they live, and they will walk to Fatima, and they won't take anything. Some will take a walking stick and they just pray. And I don't know how many days it is from where I live, if it's a week or something. You walk and you rely on the kindness of strangers to feed you, to give you shelter. And people know that because you can spot people, because they'll be in groups. So you'll see them. And I know over the years, as I've gone to Portugal and we're driving down the highway and we're going to Fatima, we'll see the people as pilgrims, like all being together in a group. And there's a prayer being said for a miracle to happen for somebody, or a miracle has happened within their town, within their city. And it's almost like they're going back to say thank you. Thank you to the spirit world for the miracle that you've had. And I know some of the prayers, people have not made it, but it doesn't matter. There is this faith in this community, where people are like, we're going to try, and we're going to try. And then it just gives you stronger faith in spirit. of whatever the outcome is supposed to be, but that's the way I've grown up. They still do that to this very day. We will get calls from Portugal, so and so is sick. You guys need to start praying for this person. And I always get to ride with this. And everybody starts to pray. It's not even a question of, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I, it's like you're doing it. It's like we all do it and you're there and it's so heart-centered. Yeah.
And I think there's a power in that union of all these voices and intentions and heartfelt emotions. So I mean, it doesn't even matter what religion you belong to. If
Yeah.
you're putting that prayer of hope and healing out for an individual, that love is felt. It's still going out. It's still being received. And I think love really is that channel that actually heals. And we come from a place of love. And it is through love that healing takes place. So we can give it different names or assign it to different religions or saints that we pray to, but at the end of the day the channel is of love. And so we've mentioned today our Catholic upbringing, but I think it's important to mention for the listeners, you don't necessarily have to belong to a religion, or you may have different faith understandings, but when we join together and we repeat words, there's a power to that because the intention
Yeah.
is being said with that kindness, that humility, that grace. And when you have that unison and that frequency that vibrates and increases with the magnitude of the number of voices, that really lifts up to the heavens. And I know that it's heard. And I know that really is the power that enables the impossible to be possible or for miracles to happen.
Oh, I agree. And there are medical studies on the power of prayer because I remember after I'd injured my back, I was obsessed with healing. I wanted to know everything about healing, I wanted to know everything about miracles. I wanted to know, how do you fix this? That was my thing. How do you fix this? Whether you can or you can't. But I remember coming across a medical study in North America, and it was people that had heart surgery. And they had divided half of the people on the floor. They had set up a prayer vigil for them. They didn't know who they were as part of the study. The people that were praying did not know who they were praying for. They just knew they were praying for one section within the ward, and those people healed faster than the other ones. And so there are medical studies out there on the power of prayer. You just kind of got to go research because I came across that. I've seen it in TV shows over the years, the power of prayer, but in a scientific way of proving it, but also, it's unexplained, right? But it's also proved at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense the way I said that, but I've always thought that was super interesting too. And healing, because before I even go to healing, like Dana said, with prayer within spirituality, when I go to the spiritual churches, there's always a little bowl, and it'd be like, whose name do you want to put in there for the power of prayer, the power of healing, to set that intention for that person? Within the Catholic Church, they have that. Would you like, the prayer groups? Do you want your name added to it? So, from my understanding, there are those little groups within your community. There's what was that book, that famous book, A Course in Miracles, talking about the power of prayer. So there's a lot of scientific evidence out there. You just got to research it for those that
Yeah.
need the proof. I like proof. Proof is good. And then there's faith too. So it's good to have both for those that have the scientific mind. Just do some research. It is out there. And how about let's talk about healing because I know that word gets thrown around a lot within the healing community. So, what is healing? And I'm going to start with Dana.
What is healing? That's a very, very broad topic because it's not just physical healing, is it? We've got emotional healing. We've got, injuries that happen with the mental mind, injuries that happen with the physical bodies, injury that happens spiritually. So healing is a removal of anything that pulls the body, the mind, the soul into states of despair. So anything that allows you to move beyond lower vibrational experiences and elevate your mind and your thoughts, which is incredibly difficult when you're not well, whether that's spiritually unwell, emotionally unwell, physically unwell, to be able to elevate your mind and your thought to choose to believe that better days are ahead, that brighter days are coming, and that healing is possible is incredibly difficult at those points. So sometimes we need the assistance of others and their faith and their belief to help us out of the trenches. And I think that brings me back to, I'm a big believer in spiritual healing, but also for absent healing, the prayers that we say, the intentions we set, uh, the desire we have, and the more we have that repetition and that mindfulness to a certain point in the day, when we start our day, we think of that person, and we perhaps we might put the prayer out to God or angels to assist them in their time of need. Or perhaps we just put the intention that they have a better day and imagine them having a better day. However you choose to move your mind does have an effect on the physical and the mental and the spiritual field, is what I'm going to say. So healing happens in all different ways, but that upliftment really in a time of need can come from others. And when we have more gathered, not just one, but many, that power is magnified because it becomes almost like its own channel of thought, its own channel of feeling. And we literally, uh, like attracts like, the law of attraction, I guess, for some of you that may not have that religious background. But equally, when we pray, we're saying a repetition of words with the same heartfelt intention and emotion that it gives power to those words. And our belief and our faith sends those words on so they're received and then returned with that, I call it divine healing, divine grace.
Yeah. I like how you said healing is uplifting because sometimes healing, because I used to volunteer in the cancer ward and um, I found healing was coming to peace. They were still going to pass away, but they would send in Reiki practitioners. Like, and I know in some of the hospitals in the States, they do hands-on healing. So healing, I like how you said that. Healing, it comes in different ways and shapes, and it's so broad and it's so different. So we just touched a tiny bit on that. And Lorraine, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, there was just you had been speaking earlier about the scientific research in terms of, prayer and that and the effects of it. I just wanted to touch off it a little bit. I don't know if it's the same with you ladies where you live, but say for example in Ireland, we have what's called the cure. So in different communities, now it's normally passed, this prayer is normally passed on to a male family member. And that male family member will be gifted with this prayer that's been passed down through generations. And say, for example, if I take shingles, so this individual will hold a prayer specifically to cure shingles. So people from all over the community, near and far, and even beyond that, will travel to this person where then they will pray over them. And like there's been so many instances of things just disappearing. It's spoken about all the time. Like in our community here, our local community, you have a specific one to shingles and also sprains, like as it's not life threatening, but as simple as that. But there are some phenomenal stories that I suppose keep the community, keep individuals again, just connected in some way. They may not be interested in religion in any way whatsoever, even spirituality, but yet, they'll be left with this moment where, my God, my shingles were, miraculously gone. So there's this just a little hook to just keep us, I think, and when we've lost faith or we don't have any, just linked into that power. And also, I mean, the doctors here, a lot of surgeons in Ireland, they will say the prayer of the bloods before they actually, you know, start the surgery. So it is quite fascinating. In terms of healing, I will only, I suppose, with my own personal experience, um, the power of healing, I feel is, I'm reminded of it every day. And it's like, I always feel this kind of nudge in the back of my mind, well, prayer is, if you are being the person that you are truly meant to be, you are moving all of the time from a place of healing, for yourself. Because I feel, and I have felt in the past, again, personally, when I have gone off track in terms of who I was or what I was to do or what I felt comfortable with, I would nearly always become ill in some way or another. And I suppose looking back at my experiences, I feel I'm carrying that kind of perspective or outlook on life now, that, I'm more conscious and more aware of being able to hold that place of healing and balance within myself if I truly am being and living that person, that I am meant to be. So
Yeah.
I have found, just on a personal level, that has been really helping me in my own recovery. And I feel that's quite powerful on an individual level, and yeah, it's where I'm moving from at the moment,
Yeah.
in my own life. And then I suppose if I can help and share that with others who may be going through despair, depression, or whatever it is in their life, you can maybe just gently share your story and show how, well, when we are, if we give, if we give the love that we have within ourselves to others, or how do I want to express this? I'm losing my words now again. If we can give the love that we feel we deserve to another, there's this healing, that can lead us in the life that we have, or the life that is there for us. If we can step into that, I feel healing is more powerful just for our own personal being, be that mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. I don't know if I've gotten that across correctly, but I know what I want to say, but I can't get the words out.
Well, it's words from the heart, isn't it? You
Yeah,
can't say a prayer unless you
yeah,
speak from the heart, because it's the giver of hope. And
yeah,
it's the hope that does the healing from states of despair in all different ways. So I think when we come together and we're unified, speaking those words from the heart, meaning each word, thinking about each word we say, that really shifts just a flat, 3D prayer, 2D prayer into something else. It becomes alive in that moment when you put your heart and your emotion, your intention, and your desire for the outcome and the expectation for that prayer to be answered. And that is the vehicle of faith, isn't it? And that's what gives the prayer it wings, literally. So whenever anyone comes to pray for someone's healing, if they're particularly ill, we have to stop in that moment and really step into that stillness, that quiet place within, that soulful place within, and really feel every word that we say with intention and meaning and heartfelt desire for that outcome. And that really, when said in unison, can have incredible results. And I do speak from experience on that. And those are the listeners that haven't heard me speak on that before. My daughter was gravely ill and had less than a 5% chance of surviving a very aggressive childhood cancer. And not only did we have the laying of hands, which had amazing results, but she wasn't expected to make it through the night, we also had a novena which in our Catholic tradition is a prayer that's said at the same time every day. And we enlist as many people as we can to pray with heartfelt intention. Uh, and we have an Australian saint, and of course and because I was in Sydney, and it's the Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Joseph, the Josephites. So the founder of that was Sister Mary McKillop, rather. And she's been canonized as a saint and recognized for 2 healings at end-of-life care when no medical intervention was possible. And so she's been recognized by the Catholic Church. So we had novenas said, and they were being said from the top of Australia right down, not just in our community and church, but sent out to believe non-believers. Please say these words with meaning, even if you don't have that background or that faith, but you have the desire for my daughter Miliana's healing. And when we found out that her brother was a match for her in the bone marrow room, which was potentially going to save her life, we found out on the feast day of Mary MacKillop. So we can call it synchronicity, but I really do believe that even the sisters that were praying for Mary, the retired sisters, and that's what they do in their retirement. They're relieved of those physical duties and going out, but they say they're literally, and the people that come to that chapel, and they flood, it's packed all the time, people coming and looking for miracles. They consistently pray the novenas and help send them out for those that are ill. And 2 of the miracles were with cancer. And it seems to attract a lot of people, not just with cancer, but there's a lot of people coming there with incurable cancers or very unusual cancers. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I have had a conversation with a beautiful lady whose great nephew is gravely ill at the moment. His name is Joshua Rochford. So he's a 6-year-old boy in the UK. And we are an international community. So when we belong to Become in Support, we all join together when one of our members or family members are going through a trialing moment. And Joshua is on the autistic spectrum, but has just been recently diagnosed with a very aggressive, very rare form of muscular cancer. So he's about to start treatment with that. But because of my experience and my faith, of course, I did reach out to this community member and asked if it was okay if we sent that same prayer that I enlisted hundreds, if not thousands, to pray for my daughter, 18 years ago this August, that resulted in a miracle young lady. The doctors really couldn't explain how my daughter is here. So they did what they knew how to do, but all the way she wasn't meant to make it. And I believe all those prayers said, and the intercession of Mary MacKillop, she herself was so strong in her faith and her belief. Going out to the poor, creating education in communities. She really had such a faith in the divine providence that God's will be done. And she prayed with great humility and grace, always trusting in his will. So there's a beautiful novena prayer. And I think Maria's going to attach that to this episode's notes. And that will be started on the 30th of June, running over 9 days until the 8th of the 7th. And we would ask anyone that supported the podcast in the past or has gained anything from it, please take the time every day. And it doesn't matter, we're all in different time zones. And I'm told and assured by the Sisters of St. Joseph that it matters not, but it does matter that everyone comes together and puts this petition for Joshua's healing and prays for his miracle recovery, because prayers are powerful. And prayers even go beyond the person suffering. They extend out to the family that come in support of that person who's going through it, because it's not a solo journey. There's lots of loved ones along the way that have to carry that and lift that person through. So just let us come together in love and an understanding of desire of peace, peace within the soul, peace within a family, and peace within our community. And let our combined words join together and offer up that heartfelt intention that this beautiful boy, a testimony to the perfection of what it is to be a soul in this physical reality, and delivering him from any suffering, but grant him a beautiful miracle that only that we know is possible when all hearts and minds join together and call on heaven to intercede. Lorraine,
Yes.
I was going to ask you to read your card, that beautiful Angel of Prayer card, if you don't
Oh,
mind.
yes. I will have a little look for it now. Apologies, I should have had it out. Yes, here we are now.
Beautiful.
So this was a prayer that one day when I was walking through the forest, I used to love just walking through the forest and be inspired. But these were the words that it came to me after having a beautiful experience with a beautiful woman. So, Angel of Prayer. Prayer is to acknowledge the beauty that surrounds us. So go walk in God's holy gardens and lift your head from the darkness of the ground and look to the heavens. Reach out and touch the wise trees and know their wisdom. Smell the heavenly scents from the gentle flowers. Watch the cloud that is forever changing as the unseen wind carries it across the sky. And tell God of the beauty you see and not of the sorrow.
Beautiful room.
Oh, that is beautiful. I just wanted to add healing prayer. So I don't know if you guys have had that or if those of you that are listening, because we are talking about prayer, but you can also feel people's prayers. And I know over the years, within our own family, and I remember my mom always saying this, and my aunts, and they'd be like, all of a sudden, they would feel such peace and calm in the middle of such heartbreak and despair. And they would always look at each other and be like, somebody's praying for us right now, because they could feel the peace. So just sending out prayers, whatever that prayer looks like, for those of you that are out there, I will post the prayer in the show notes. Feel free to copy the prayer, share it on your social media. Let's get as many people as we can. I'm getting all choked up. Within the power of the prayer, and then we leave it up to the divine for, whatever is supposed to happen is supposed to happen. But just being a part of that prayer and sending out that intention. And like Dayna said, and Lorraine, it's also the family too, and everybody's feeling peace within that moment. So, Dayna, any last words before we close? Or do you want to read the prayer, the Novena prayer, Dayna?
I think it's actually a personal prayer, and we might leave it to our readers. But I will say it's not just praying for peace. Sometimes we pray for the strength and the courage to face, and the strength of those that have to witness that battle within that happens when people are very ill. So we ask the prayer to join their hearts and minds in that battle, and it does feel like that when you're facing that level of illness, to give them strength and courage to face the days where doubt and despair rest more so than hope and healing. And they're the moments when our prayers are required the most. And when we do those 9 days, we keep that intention in mind that even though our prayers may not be required that particular day, no prayer is lost. It lies there waiting for that moment when that divine healing is required, and that will be felt when that prayer is sent out from the individual. When the heart opens up, that prayer will be delivered. So thank you everyone for listening, for joining in. That will be starting on the 30th of this month, going through until the 8th of July. But there is, of course, no end to our prayers. A novena is a prayer that's said the same way, but we can all pray with intention from our heart, and our continued prayers for Joshua and for every child of the world who is going through very difficult struggles with their health. It's a difficult time to watch a child be ill, and it's very difficult and it challenges our faith. So turn to that understanding that grace is always possible, miracles do happen, and that when we come together in prayer, we initiate the beginnings of that. Thank you.
Thank you. So this podcast will come out this week. So you guys are listening to this week. So my question for you, Dayna, because some people may be asking, because I know you said the novena starts June 30th. Can they start praying before that? Before then?
Um, well, I would ask that if they want to start praying, I'm sure there's no harm in that. I don't think there's any wasted prayer. But on those particular days, to those 9 consecutive days, know that all hearts and minds are joined in unison saying those same words. And it's a prayer said for many, but with also Joshua in mind. So it isn't said in honor of Joshua, but it's for all who are sick or needy or ill or in states of despair. So it's a wonderful place to start to be part of something and to experience it, because there will be effects in the days ahead from the prayers that are said. They're never lost.
Yes. And Lorraine, any last words before we go?
Well, I would just like to say thank you to you two ladies for, having the platform to even speak about, prayer and the power of prayer.
Mhm.
Um, because it's a very individual thing, isn't it? And some people will relate it to religious communities and feel maybe, that, well, it's just for them, but it's universal, isn't it? It's I just I've experienced, through the power of prayer and entered into that constant stream that is the power of prayer within the heavens. And that is a constant. And we are just literally entering into it. And I think that's where the most incredible miracles can come from. And it's to just allow people who aren't of any religious faith to realize that and understand it. And maybe somewhere within them, they will be able to reach out and enter that constant flow of prayer that exists there, that may bring the healing that they need. So I just think it's been a lovely opportunity to explore it. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. If you enjoy our podcast, comment below. Feel free to reach out to us if you have a story you want to share about the power of prayer. We would love to hear from you. So, thank you so much, everybody. Have a beautiful day. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.